Welcome back to the channel. My name's Tim Gordon. I'm an author, trainer, and an ACT, and I'm going to teach you how your thoughts can actually trap you with more anxiety. Have you ever had the experience where you've tried to stop thinking about something, but seemingly it's the only thing you can think about? Maybe you're trying to go to bed, do something with somebody you love, just engage in your everyday life. And suddenly this anxiety-driven thought, something that you're worried about, starts creeping into your everyday life. It starts taking up more and more space, and you don't want it to. You want to let it go. But somehow you can't. I've had this experience many times, and I trust that you have as well. We have this really interesting way of talking about not playing into our anxiety or practicing acceptance. We call it the struggle switch. Now, using language like turning off the struggle switch is, I think, a helpful metaphor. It's sort of like the Book of Mormon, like a light switch, just, turn it off.
So turn it off like a light switch, just go click.
And although we can't just simply turn our anxiety off, what we can turn off is how we engage with anxiety. And that really is the theme for today. When we have a thought that hooks us, and remember what a hook is something that we really get fused to, a thought that can grab us and pull us off in a direction we wouldn't choose to go. What do we do with that? Imagine you have a struggle switch. When an uncomfortable, anxiety-provoking thought, emotion, maybe you don't want to feel a certain way, a memory, maybe you anticipate feeling a certain way, and now all of a sudden you're starting to notice that little bit of tightness in your chest. Maybe your thoughts start racing. Me, I get that queasy feeling in my stomach. We flip the struggle switch on naturally. It's a normal thing to do. Why do we switch it on? Because we want to get logical. We want to get fixity. We want to fight what we don't want to feel. In ACT, what we would recommend is hitting that switch can be completely appropriate. But if you're not noticing how that switch is working, how it's affecting your behavior, it may actually inadvertently, accidentally make the anxiety worse. Feed it, give it more power. That's why we like the metaphor of the struggle switch. Imagine telling yourself, don't think of fill in the blank, a plane crash. Don't think of some terrible headline in the news. Immediately, in order to not think about it, your mind has to create that contrast. You have to be aware of it. You actually think about this thing for a moment. And it can become more powerful, especially the more that you say, don't think about it, don't go there. Inadvertently, we're giving it more power. We're paying attention to it. And notice that don't think about it is a stand-in here for hitting that struggle. When we flip the switch, we start to push, we start to fight, we start to say, ooh, I don't want to have this thought. So we start struggling against it. Generally, we call this experiential avoidance. It's something that I don't want to have, an experience that's aversive. So of course, you would want to avoid it. So rather than hitting the switch on and starting to fight things, what if we learned how to leave it off? And let me repeat that. Let me say that again really slowly. Rather than flipping the switch on, what if we learned to leave it off? This means noticing the experience that elicits these reactions, the feelings, the emotions, the memory. So what is it that brings this up for you? Can you notice that? And what do I mean by notice? Can you pay attention to it? Can you label it? Just as plainly as you could hold your hand out in front of you right now, and you could look at the details of your hand. Like I'm actually noticing a small little cut on my middle finger, just past my knuckle that I hadn't noticed before, but I can notice that, I can see it. It's pretty scabby, so it looks like it's healed. Maybe that was a paper cut that I didn't notice a couple days ago. Looks like it's been there for a while. But because I'm actually slowing down and paying attention to my hand, I can notice it. That's what we mean by noticing, paying attention to what it is that would actually come and hook you. It may be stuff that you don't want to notice. Sometimes people will tell me, Tim, I wish that your meditations didn't have such a bodily focus because that's really triggering to me. My response to that is, cool, you're noticing that that's triggering to you. Can we work with that? Can we pay attention to it? Can you label it? So if you notice, you can then name it. You can then allow it. And that's where we come up with this idea of acceptance, working with the painful stimulus events, the things that we notice that elicit these reactions in us. Now, as therapists, myself included, I can accidentally be very invalidating when I say to clients, hey, don't turn the struggle switch on. Just leave it off. Oh yeah, great. Might be the response. Yeah, it's not an actual switch. I'm not turning something off or turning something on. That's not how it works, Tim. I don't want to struggle with this. That's why I'm here. So we got to be careful how we frame this, and I want to be careful how I communicate that to you because you matter to me. So let me just take you through a brief practice. I'm here. I'm on this call with you. I'm going to ring my meditation bells. I'm going to invite you into the most brief reflective practice with me. Take a breath on purpose. Wherever you are in the world, whatever you're doing, just slowing down, paying attention to your experience for a moment. And I'd like to invite you to pay attention to something in your everyday life. Not the biggest issue you struggle with, not the most evocative, but something that shows up regularly. Maybe something that bothers you, something that nags at you, maybe something that you're anticipating could create some anxiety. March break just ended here in Canada, and I can be pretty critical, have some pretty severe self-doubt. If you know me personally, you know that I really care about how I show up to people. And as March break was ending, my son said to me that what he really appreciated about his March break was how patient I was with him. And that came at a particularly tender moment for me because I hadn't felt like I'd actually really been very patient with him. And even as I reflect on that now, I notice self-doubt. The judgment that I'm not a great parent. Give yourself a moment to notice something in your world that has that little aversive quality for you. Give it a name. And practice having it here, just as it is. Not as it says it is, as it is. We don't need to fight it. You don't need to challenge it, justify why it's there. Just give yourself a moment to notice. I'm going to ring the bells. It's our opportunity to just let go of this exercise and come back to turning the switch off. I hope you were able to do it. Notice something aversive in your experience, that you were able to name it, and that you were also able to allow it to be with you, to not fight it. That's what we mean by turning the struggle switch off. The key to keeping the switch off isn't by turning it off. The key is to notice when you want to turn it on. That's why we pay attention to these experiences. That's why we name them. If you name it, it will make it more predictable. You'll be able to see it more easily. It can help us defuse, take a step out of it and notice it. And once we can notice it, name it, it's easier to allow it, or to even choose what we do next. Because remember, when we experience aversive things, our context, our world gets smaller. It's like having PTSD and experiencing tunnel vision. Of course you want to fight against it, but if we could slow you down and help you to notice it, if you could name it, you might make a different choice in the presence of it. Do you notice hitting your struggle switch makes some of your anxiety worse and causes you to spiral more deeply into it? I hope you found this helpful. Please give this video a like and make sure to subscribe and check out my free ACT Toolbox email series, where we go even deeper into some of these topics. By signing up for my mailing list, down below, you get access to goodies, but you also get access to my free ebook. I suggest you read it. We have all kinds of suggestions around how to pay attention to your experience, practicing present moment awareness processes like mindfulness, but in more accessible ways to integrate into our everyday life, as well as the concept of hooks, understanding the experiences that pull us off in directions that we don't want to go. If you want to learn more about this powerful approach, Check out my videos on what is ACT, as well as the 6 core processes of ACT. I'll link those down below. Remember, you do not have to fight your mind. You can notice, allow, and move forward. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.